Hello. Yikes. That wasn't good. But I'm not going to talk about it all that much. I mean, I have a couple of things to talk about that shit show of a game, but we'll focus more on other things for the most part. I think we'll focus a little bit more in on individual play, what can get better. You know, obviously we don't need to make it all about what's missing and whatnot, but, you know, it was a pretty disastrous game, and it's not horribly surprising that it was that disastrous. You know, they're playing a team that's good. Like, there's no doubt about it. They're playing a team that has the ability to do some good things against them, and they did it. You know, they went out there and they just smoked the Golden Knights. They smoked them right off the jump. Vegas didn't have it. I do think that it's pretty fair to say, like, even if Vegas did have it, it ain't getting much better than that, you know, with this roster and this setup. Yeah, let's just get off the game itself. I don't think that we have to do anything, you know, beyond that. Let's just jump right into Q&As. I'll get to there's one about journalism, but I'll stick with the Golden Knights first. If you have questions, pop them in the comments. And if you're watching on Twitter, you have to go to YouTube or Facebook to ask comments on here. Something going on there. I don't know. Hopefully that gets fixed at some point. But I'll start with kind of the one that kind of jumped out to me, and that's Theodore. And I would say this is part of it. How can we fix the power play? I don't know what's going on with Theodore. I think there's a part of me that kind of wants to say that, like, he's, you know, squeezing his stick. There's a part of me that wants to say he's trying to press too much for offense, but I don't really see that. I do wonder a little bit about kind of, are they putting him in situations that aren't particularly good? I wonder about his partner. I haven't exactly been enthralled so far with Martinez. They're giving up a lot of chances. There have been some issues where they're getting lost in their own zones, some different situations that aren't particularly great. So what I wondered aloud, I guess, on Twitter is kind of, is he a product or a victim or whatever you want to call it of this belief of, like, you don't play well, you're out of here? Like, this guy signed a long-term contract. He's played great. He was 6th in the Norris voting each of the last 2 seasons. He's obviously not headed that way through 9 games, but that can obviously change. You know, I do think there is something to be said about the fact that, like, there is this belief that if you do not have your no move clause, and there's only 2 guys that have it, that you are next. And every moment that we hear these Eichel rumors, like, I feel like we have to look at this from the player perspective for a second. I cover the team as a journalist there, or whatever the fuck I do. You know, you guys watch the team. I know I have a lot of friends also in the media, and I kind of feel like everybody's on the same page about the Eichel thing from our end, which is like, God, I can't wait till it's over. Either rip the Band-Aid off and do it, or hopefully someone else does it and it's just over, or the Golden Knights can come out and say, we're not doing it. You know, any of these options would be great. But from a player perspective, you have to be sitting there wondering, what are they thinking about this? You know, obviously, when they're signing a guy on waivers or claiming a guy on waivers, and then they're re-signing a younger defenseman in Zach Whitecloud at a time that is coinciding with all of these rumors, that you have to feel like maybe a little bit there's a piece of players that are saying, like, man, is it me? You know, obviously a guy like a Tuck has no impact because he can't play at the moment. But a guy like Theodore, who's on the ice, probably wants to show that he can do more for this team and that he wouldn't be the right option. But at the same time, it's like, well, you start playing great, maybe that even furthers your ability to, you know, be an attractive guy for Buffalo. So I look at this and I say, like, it wears me down just covering the team, and I know there's no scenario in which I can go. I think about what it's going to be like moving forward, what the rest of this season's going to be like, what the future is going to be like. And that doesn't always, determine how I feel about particular moves. I think it does impact me in a way in that I honestly do believe that adding Jack Eichel would not necessarily make this team better. And in fact, I believe it will make them worse if they go about this in a situation in which it looks like they would, which is giving up multiple prospects and picks. And I think, that's probably not good for me or the site or any fans for the next year, 2, 3, 4. I don't know how long that may be. That's part of the reason I'm against it. If you're a guy like a Shea Theodore, like a Riley Smith, like a Jonathan Marchessault, William Karlsson, guys that have money against the cap here, seeing all these rumors, it has to make you wonder, like, am I going to go in this deal? And how do you play to your full potential under that, guys, understanding that any moment could be my last? And even if I play well, that actually might hurt me. If I play poorly, that might hurt me. There's not a lot of kind of calm that can go here. And also one of the problems, and it's been a theme that I've been harping on for a long time, is that the front office, no one from the front office can come down and say to a player, we're not going to trade you, or you have nothing to worry about. Because the fact of the matter is they cannot believe that. Even if it may be genuine in that very moment, you cannot believe it if you're a Golden Knights player. That furthers the challenge that it is. And so like a guy like Riley Smith, who's already on a contract year and looking to kind of make his next contract and make it worth it. Now he's got to be wondering, what if I don't play well? How does this look for me? I just think it's a tough situation to play under, and I don't think it's ideal for the Golden Knights or for any individual player. And I think it's part of the reason that they have struggled. Before I turn the banner off and start taking questions from the queue there, and I see there are a bunch in there, I want to tell you that this Periscope is brought to you by Conler & Associates CPAs. Conler & Associates CPAs sponsors the banner on the bottom of this Periscope that should be pushed down a little bit further because I turned the ticker off, and I don't really like how there's a little space in between the banner and where the ticker would be, and that you can see my face and my finger if I do this. But Conler & Associates CPAs are my favorite CPAs in Las Vegas. They are terrific with unemployment taxes, gambling taxes, cryptocurrency, any tax-related questions you have, bookkeeping. If you want somebody else to run your QuickBooks, because running QuickBooks kind of sucks, go to Conler CPAs, and also tell them that SinBin sent you. They'll hook you up with a free consultation, and I can promise you, if you get either of the two Conlers, Gary or his father, you will probably have a long conversation about what the hell is going on with the Golden Knights, and it will probably be enjoyable for you because that's who they are. They're fantastic people, big Golden Knights fans, big supporters of SinBin, and thank you very much to them for supporting these as they have for the past season and now the beginning of this season. So let me turn that banner off for a second so that we don't have these things going over the top of the banner, and I don't particularly like how it looks anyway because I didn't move it down, and that kind of bothers me. All right, let's go to this one. Jay Fresh and Jack Han had Twitter Space today where they briefly talked about Petrangelo's terrible analytical numbers. Talked about Petrangelo's skating as being a possible reason. I'll leave it up there on the bottom so people can read that. I do not think it has anything to do with Petrangelo's skating. I do not think it has anything to do with Petrangelo's play. I do not think it has anything to do with Petrangelo at all, to be completely honest. I have seen the numbers. I was planning on writing about the numbers today, in fact. The more I looked through them, the more I dug through them, the more I think you have to go through in each individual game and pick out all of these chances that are being, compiled up against them. A, who's on the ice against him? B, who's on the ice with him? C, how at fault is he for it? And D, if he is at fault, why is he at fault? Is he trying to push the pace offensively too much? Is he trying to do too much to give him that leads to these situations? To me, every number I compiled, while I understand that the stats are bad and that you cannot just throw them out, and I will not just throw them out, and it's one of the biggest reasons I did not just throw an article out here saying I believe my eyes over the numbers, is that I think a lot of it has to do with just the way the Golden Knights are set up right now, and that he's going to take the brunt of the bad analytics. The fact is, the Golden Knights analytics are disastrous at the moment. They shouldn't be nowhere close to 4-5. They should be like 2-9 or something like that, 2-8, whatever it would be at this point, like 9 games to whatever. You know what I'm saying? 2-7, I guess it would be. Like, the numbers are horrible. Expected goals against are horrible. High danger chances are horrible. Today, I was focused directly on that. Today was Hague. A lot of the problems that were being caused today with Petrangelo on the ice were Hague. They're playing high, challenging minutes because they're playing a lot of minutes without great defensive forwards with them. And what's happening is they're being put in situations that they cannot win. That if they go try to create a goal, which is what the Golden Knights had to do, and they knew we're going to have to score at some point in this game, that's why you saw the aggressiveness out of Nick Hague when he's playing against Matthews and Marner and Tavares and Nylander and these types of players. They're going to struggle, especially Hague. Now, if you play Martinez and Petrangelo together, and that is the line you get, well, then you might have more success. The reason why the Golden Knights cannot do that at this moment is because if they do that, especially in a road game, they'll never see any of those 6 guys against them. They will constantly be seeing third lines against them, fourth lines against them, and there will be nothing to defend against the better players. That's why they're not doing that. I cannot completely throw the analytics away. They're bad, and they're getting worse. And today, after the first period, I pulled it up because I thought, you know what? I don't think Petrangelo was that bad in this period. I pulled it up. Sure enough, number 1 in expected goals against at the end of the first period was Petrangelo. I can only imagine that continued as the game went on. There were issues in other aspects, but I can't just throw it out. But I don't think it's Petrangelo. I think he probably influences it a little bit in what he's being asked to do and how he's being asked to play, which I think is a positive in that will get better if he is, put back in the role that he should be in, which is they have some semblance of offense. I think they will be better. What do you feel about the Blue Shirts' opinions on Howden? Yeah, so I kind of threw this out there because I didn't fully understand why Ranger fans hate Brett Howden so much. And I guess I know a little bit more, and I think I understand it a little bit more. I guess I never quite traced his history, didn't really care. I just always kind of wondered how he played and, when he's in the NHL. And I know that there were some issues there before. There have been some issues here. But, I didn't understand, why such vitriol against this guy. Really the Golden Knights haven't had that about too many players. Patrick Brown was an example I threw out that, Patrick Brown and Brett Howden are not all that different of players. And the Golden Knights fans were devastated when he gets claimed, and the Ranger fans are following the Golden Knights to shit on this guy. I didn't understand it. Now I kind of get it. And he was kind of the kingpin in a white flag trade. So they're trying to move on to with their season, make themselves better in the future, get rid of their captain, Ryan McDonough, and a good player who goes on to win the Stanley Cup too, in fact. And they get Brett Howden out of it. Didn't really work out. They move him on for a 3rd-round pick. Not great. I get it. So do I agree with their opinion? No. He hasn't been horrendous for me. Has he been great? Not really. Best case scenario for this season. It's a IMO. It's a wild card. That's what Cody says. I think they can still sneak into the top 2 or 3. I think winning the division's probably out of hand. I would imagine either Edmonton or Calgary is going to be so far away when they get back to fully healthy that they're not going to be able to keep them. But I think they can still make the playoffs. I do think they have to find a way to, get going. Wrong for right. I don't need to hear. They're not going to be a lottery team no matter what. Even if they're missing the playoffs, they're going to have 0.05% or some shit to win the lottery. I just don't care about the lottery. This is an interesting question. How long do we give Krebs before we can expect him to be a regular contributor? There are different, things pulling on me on this. There's one end of me that's pulling on my right arm that's hey, 9 games, no points. Offensive production has been declining, in my opinion. I thought there was more at the beginning of the season. Then there's the other part that says, well, he played with Jake Lecision and Janmark today. He's had some moments where he's had some better players that he's been with. I do think it's fair. I do think it's fair to start asking the question of like, hey, you're supposed to be the standout rookie. You're supposed to be the guy that's, on the entry-level contract, making a difference, helping the salary cap issue when the team is fully healthy. And we've seen almost nothing out of it. A comment that DeBoer made after the game today was like, you can use these games to learn some things and find out a little bit about your team. And I think that's fair. I think we are learning something about Janmark and Donov and Stevenson, Krebs, Patrick when he was in there, Howden certainly, Kolazar, Carrier. Like, are these guys actually going to be the regular contributors? Stevenson's the one that's been producing so far, but to me, there's something to be said about the fact that Stevenson was basically handed an offensive role and protected against the best players on a bad team in the Ducks. And that's how he was able to get some offense. The same thing happens when they're trying to do it against Dallas and Colorado. Like, you're playing against teams, you're kind of trying to protect him, and the offense is there. Now, when he goes back to 1C, whenever that happens to be, do you actually get that production? I don't know. To me, William Karlsson remains the best center on this team, and I don't see any other way around it. Did you find it strange McPhee and McCrimmon were at the Toronto game together? I do not. I know that they like to go. I know that, anytime they get opportunities to go to Canada, they usually tend to take it. No, I did not find that strange. Seems like Petrangelo is getting way above average minutes per game. Isn't this setting him up for injury? Yeah, I mean, he plays a lot. Like, I'm not all that worried about him playing a lot. You kind of have to do that. I don't see any way of not playing him 23, 24 minutes because you have to try and win these games. Like, there's no way you can just give these games up, because if you do that and you come back with no points on this 4-game road trip, you're back in a huge hole needing to win all these games at home. And they're much better opponents when you play at home in this next group of games than what you're playing on the road here. So I'm not all that worried about that. I don't think there's anything you can do. Is the Karlsson injury the breaking point for the team? I think the breaking point was before that. I think Karlsson just makes it even worse. I think they were already broke, and this is going to make it even worse. He's their best center. He's a huge driver of offense on that line. He's a huge part of what they do defensively. He's a massive part of the penalty kill. Losing William Karlsson sucks. Like, I thought after Stone, that's the guy you could least afford to lose, and that's above Leonard, and I think Leonard's been awesome. I just don't think they could afford to lose William Karlsson, and now they're doing it, and we'll see. Like, I'm nervous about these next games. What else do we have? Long season. Yeah, I'm aware. I'm aware that it's a long season. I'm not giving up. There's no give up from me. I do think you got to find a way to get some points. I don't think you can let this thing get out of hand here real quickly, and I don't want to see the panic move. Because I think that could be around the corner. I think if you come back with no wins on these 4 games, wouldn't shock me if there's a panic move somewhere. I don't think Michael Amadio or Ben Hutton's the panic move, but there might be one in the future. Ken, the power play. What do they need to do to right the ship? It's getting comical. Yeah, it's fucking embarrassing is the simplest way to put it. Like, it's a joke. It's literally a joke. 0 for 18. And it goes back. I can't even do the math. Like, I'm not smart enough without my calculator to do the math of how many it's actually been. It's horrible. And it's not getting better. And it was embarrassing today. Like, it was pathetic today. They could not enter. And even when they won the draws, they had absolutely nothing going on. I think that maybe studying some of the things that other teams are doing, I feel like there's this belief of like, there are no secrets in power plays and we just need to keep at it. Well, no, like, watch the way that Toronto scored in this game. It's a no-look pass through the seam to a guy streaking towards the net. The Golden Knights don't do that. They've done it really one time this entire season that I can remember, and the pass was behind Marchessault. If they hit that pass, maybe they score the goal on it. Like, you need motion. You need players in motion, and particularly players in motion towards the goal. If teams are going to collapse on you, which they are, because they know the only way the Golden Knights could score a power play goal right now is shooting it from the point and hoping that it finds the magical way through, they're just going to collapse in front of the goal. There's too many bodies. You're not going to score. So you have to take that ice and move towards the goal. Shift players around, get different guys, rotate as you play. Like, you have to do interchanges and that type of thing, try to confuse things. I think they have to throw the entire thing in the garbage and start completely over. I would start with a new entry. I don't think the entry's been good enough, so fuck the drop pass. That's got to go. I understand why they do it, but it's not any good anymore. Get rid of that. I'd like to see some change. Like, I'm at the point where it's like, okay, it's time to change. Should VGK tank the season, write off it as an injury loss season, help their already limited prospect depth? That's an interesting question. Can the front office even sell that to the fans? It's a very interesting question. Like, if you were to say, okay, we stink, it's not getting better, it's not going to get all that much better, and even if it does, even if we find our way in, we need help on this roster. Like, can you find a way to trade a Riley Smith for prospects? Can you potentially get a huge return on the Shea Theodore? And again, I throw this out as journalist, media member, whatever you want to call me, being asked a question. And like, I made this comment about how the players are going to view this, and I get it, but like, they don't have faith in their front office that they're not going to be sent away. So I can do this because it's not my fault that they don't have the faith. If you were to go down this road, if you did decide, and tank's probably not the right word. If you said, all right, we're light at prospects, we need some help on entry-level contracts, we're going to have to get deeper, we're still going to build the team around the probably the key maybe 4 or 5 pieces, which I would say would be, I would start with Petrangelo and Stone, obviously. Leonard would be the next one. Carlson would be the one behind that. Then you start looking like, okay, what other directions do we want? I'd probably stick Stevenson. I'd keep Stevenson because of what he's being paid. Obviously, White Cloud signs the contract. Don't mind that. Defensively, like, if you could push Martinez on somebody else and get back 2 second-round picks like you did before, can you go that route? Like, I guess the question would be, if you look at that, how much can they actually get back? What would the return be? And then can you immediately spin that into a winning concept next season, understanding that there's still a salary cap and you're not going to get that much? I would say that's probably not a way that they would want to go. I agree that selling that to the fans would be awfully challenging. I think it would take an unbelievable, honest approach, and that is not something that we've seen all that much from this front office. So I'll guess no, they don't do that, nor can they do that. Who in the division is surprising you the most? I guess it's got to be Calgary. I mean, they're playing great hockey. Like, I'm very impressed by what they've done. I liked their offseason. You know, they just got better. I don't think they did it in a big way. I don't think they did it in a splashy way. They kind of had the type of offseason that you look at and you say, that's what we've been asking for around here. They didn't blow up their key players. They just got a little bit better. And I think the goaltender increase was key. So I don't know. That's an interesting concept. Like, why they got so much better. It also could be coming back to this division. That's another piece of it. Let's see. Where was that question I wanted? Any tips for someone majoring in journalism? Yeah, I think the best tip that I can give you, and I give this to everybody, is be useful. You know, find a way, whatever you want to do. Obviously, when you're, in school, you should probably soak up all the shit that they're teaching you. That's step one. But I always tell people, and I think this goes in journalism or in anything, like, be useful. Everybody needs a good employee. And even if they don't want to pay you at the moment, if you're useful enough, they'll find a way to pay you. If you make yourself useful enough, you can be in a situation where they cannot be without you. And I think that's something that is easier said than done, but I think it's something that's kind of good to live by, which is just whatever you want to do, however you want to do it, be helpful to someone, whether that's an audience, that's one way to do it, whether that's someone currently doing the job, someone doing the job you want to cover, whatever it happens to be. I think that's certainly good. How many years can you keep playing the cap game the way they are now? When does it finally bust? Well, we might already be seeing it bust now. I don't think they can play it much further, which is why I'm not a fan of the Eichel trade at all, because I think you're furthering your cap problems. You're kicking the can even further down the road, and you will continue selling off assets from the greatest expansion draft of all time for absolutely dick. Like, that's the problem that I have had, is that there's no return on Schmidt. There's no return on Stastny. There's no return on, like, even a Haula gets you a wah, but at the time he should have been worth more. I thought they got less than what they could have for Gusev at the moment because they were cap tied. Yes, that one looks good now, but when you looked at that moment, he was worth a first round pick. You know, you get nothing for the reigning Vezina trophy winner. Somehow they pulled something out of Eakin and Reeves. I don't know why the bad players are pulling off cap, but like, if you do this, you're giving away 3 more players for nothing. And you're taking more and more and more assets and undervaluing them. I think it's a huge problem. If you can trade for Hertl, what are you trading for him? Hertl would be another all-in move. I think to do the Hertl thing, you have to be fairly confident you're going to make the playoffs this year, which I still think you can be. If you put Hertl on this roster quickly, I think you could do it. The problem is San Jose ain't going to want to do that right now. Like, even, and I don't fully buy into like the San Jose would not make a deal with Vegas. Like, I'm not that worried about that. They'll do it if the deal is right for them. The problem is San Jose's winning some games. Like, San Jose had this exact trip. Jason's writing about it for tomorrow, and they swept it. Golden Knights have not. So, like, they're not going to give up on the moment. And at the moment, he's a guy that they would probably want to keep for the future. Thought I was shaving after Thursday's show. As it turns out, I did, and my face grows. So hair on here, yes. Here, no. I got nothing. I don't know what to do. It's Paul's fault, my dad. Or maybe it's Grandpop's fault. I don't know. Whoever is at fault for male pattern baldness in your family, that's whose fault it is. They're not at fault for male pattern beardness, which I don't even like. I wish I didn't even have it. It's fucking annoying. Do you think Donov and Patrick are players to get us to the Stanley Cup Final? At the moment, I do not. I was not huge on Nolan Patrick. He's done nothing to change my mind on that. I didn't hate the deal because I was very low on Cody Glass. So if Nolan Patrick ends up being nothing, it's not that big a deal. And I don't think you were getting much more than like a 3rd or 4th round pick. So I don't mind the reclamation project on Nolan Patrick. I just don't think it's happening. As far as Donov, maybe if he's put back in the role he's supposed to be in, he does better. I haven't seen it to this point, so I don't know what to make it. Just pair Haig with Coghlan. I'd rather have a defensive chaos due to their youth at the bottom pair, because otherwise, the moment Haig becomes visible is becoming a problem for VGK. I probably read that and mangled that however I read it. But, yeah, I don't think you could do that. I don't know what you would do with Petrangelo at that point. Like, I don't know that McNabb's solving the Petrangelo problem. Maybe it does. I wouldn't mind trying some different things, but I would probably look to maybe put Haig with Theodore and see if you can pull some offense out of that and protect them off defensively, and then let Coghlan and Martinez play together. I don't know. I don't know that there's a great opportunity or situation or setup, whatever, for any of those. What's the best case scenario for the next 4 to 5 weeks? Point per game, probably. Like, I guess maybe slightly above a point per game would probably be the best case scenario. I think what you're looking for as a fan is just don't fall out of it. Don't get to a point where you literally cannot get back in this, even if you get healthy. Now, we have to remember there's 67 games left. There's 2 ways to look at that. One way is, holy shit, that's a lot of games to have some success. The other way is, that's a lot of games to get further injured. And if some of these guys come back and other guys go out, like, that's a problem. It looks like they made it through this game without an injury. That's a positive. But, I think you have to reassess. Like, at the moment, just try and find a way to stay in the mix. And to me, winning the last 3 games went a long way in that. It pushed the can down, it pushed the calendar. now it's 4 to 5 weeks instead of it being 6 or 7 weeks, which it was not that long ago. Like, maybe you get Stone back a little bit earlier. Maybe he makes a big impact. You're getting good goaltending. Hopefully that continues. Like, if they're in the mix, if they're within 7 or 8 points when they get everybody back, like even if it happens to be March and you're within 7 or 8, you can make a run. You can make a run, win, 19 of 25 or something and make it happen. Like, it's going to be tough, but this team can do it. We know this team can do it. So they just have to stay in the mix. If Krebs doesn't pan out the way we hoped, how damning is that for the Golden Knights' ability or lack thereof to develop prospects? Very. It's very. Like, there hasn't been much. Like, not a lot of guys have gotten a ton better. I think that's the problem. Like, White Cloud was looking like he was headed towards getting better, and then, I don't know where he's going to be when he comes back. I don't know what the full ceiling on him is. I think he's an NHL player. I don't necessarily know about the contract and how that's going to work out. Especially down the road. Certainly next year is going to be maybe a little bit of an issue there. Haig, I think there's moments where you think this guy's headed for top 4. There's also moments you don't. I've also been told by very smart hockey people, don't judge defensemen before 200 games. Cody Glass obviously didn't work out. Suzuki was much better when he went elsewhere. I mean, you go down the list, Lecision, Ronbier, Cotter, Elvenis, Dugan, Korzak. It goes on and on and on, and there's not a lot there. And really, one of the most exciting prospects is the one that they don't have their hands on at all, which is Morozov. So, yeah, I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. When does somebody internally get fired? I think they have to lose a bunch more games before that happens. And then this question, why are you firing people over injuries? Well, because as bad as the injuries are, you cannot allow even strong injuries like this to completely take you out of being anything. Like, if you are going to be a legitimate Stanley Cup contender, these types of players have to be able to at least survive at different times. Like, they have to be able to make something happen for you, because if they can't, what are they going to do when you need them in lesser roles down the road? Like, you need impact from Donov, from Stevenson, from Patrick, from Kolazar, from Carrier, from Waugh. All of these guys have to make impacts. And as you raise their role and it doesn't happen, that's when you ask yourself, well, wait a minute. How good is this team? How good are these players? What are we learning about these players? And there is an argument to be made to fire somebody. To me, it probably would not be the coach. It would be a different route, because he's finding a way to get something. If the players aren't as good, do you think you're going to be able to bring in a new coach and get better? I don't know. I think there's a different way to look at it. Let's see. Anything else on the bottom here? All right. Would putting Theodore and Petrangelo together until Vegas is healthy be a good idea? This is the last one I'll take for the night. I think it leaves you awfully thin elsewhere. Like, offensively at least. Now, there's an argument to be made that if you're going to win games, you're probably going to have to win them 2-1, 3-2 at the best. So if you can play 20 minutes of those two together and steal a goal, if you can believe they can be a plus, might be worth it. Like, I don't think I'm against it. The more I think about it, just kind of talking this out, sound it out, and we'll talk through your answer. What is that? Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I think it actually might make sense. Like, you got to find goals. You have to find goals. And I think that might be one way to find goals. I think you're going to get more offensive production out of Theodore than you will Haig playing with Petrangelo. Where does that leave you down the lineup? I don't necessarily know, but Haig and Martinez, neither of them play on the right, so you're probably looking at Coghlan and Martinez, and Haig and McNabb, again, same problem. That's the other issue. Your right-hand side is missing a guy. So Theodore's been better on the right. Now he would have to play on the left with Petrangelo. So then someone has to play the other side or make a switch. And there's not a lot of options down the road to do it. Like, maybe Daniil comes back. I think signing Ben Hutton proves they don't want to do that. Well, maybe Ben Hutton's an option. Like, there are different options. I think you can look at finding a way to do it. And I don't hate the idea of trying to put those two together and see what you get. Thanks again to Conler and Associates CPAs for sponsoring this Periscope. Go to conlercpa.com. That's Conler with a K. CPA is CPA.com. Thanks for everybody for hopping on here, asking the questions. Good comments in the comment section, which is nice because it has been a problem with not being able to get comments on Twitter. Goalie interference is tomorrow. Plenty to talk about on there. 7 o'clock. For that show, we'll be here. Again, if you don't have your Sin Bingo card, make sure you get on the site and request that. I'll be up all night sending those bad boys out, but we'll get them to you. Sin Bingo, just go to SinBin.vegas. It's right there on the front page, or it's like at the bottom of every single article. There's a little banner. Make sure you get that. Makes the season a little bit more fun, different things to look for, different things to watch in the game. You cheer for face-offs and shit like that. It's good stuff. That's it. I don't know when the next podcast is going to be, probably Monday. But goalie interference tomorrow, we got a lot to talk about, and I'm interested what Mike has to say about how they're looking because he's got some interesting opinions. He was texting me today. Should be a fun show. Thanks again to everybody for joining us, and fuck that game.